Welcome to What's the Story Dublin, the official Dublin City Council podcast with me, your host, Deirdre Malumbi. This podcast deep dives into the work of all the moving parts that make up Dublin City Council. It also shares news of the Council's latest initiatives and exciting events. In today's episode, we're looking at area offices and community and social development. I am joined today by Aoife Hannan, who is the Area Community and Social Development Manager for Ballyfermot and Drimnagh. Aoife, you're very welcome to the show.
Dígad Deirdre, tá an áthas an bheithan sa nniu I caintleat, mar gheall an counter Ballyfermot agus Drimnagh agus má post. I'll stop there. Thanks, Deirdre. I'm delighted to be here. It's great. It's brilliant to be chatting to you.
The automatic reaction that was coming to me was Mahan calling, because that's all the Irish that's coming to me now.
Okay, good. I tried the cúpla focal, but after that, yes, I will be availing of the Irish classes. It's great to be able to speak a few words. Thanks a million, Deirdre. It's great to be here.
Brilliant. We always love to hear cúpla focal here on What's the Story Dublin. So thank you so much for that, Aoife. You work for the area offices, actually, and I was wondering, for those completely unfamiliar with local council, could you start, Aoife, by maybe telling us a bit about how many area offices Dublin City Council actually has, and where would they cover?
Okay. Dublin City Council, it's divided into 5 administrative areas. So from the northwest area, north central, south central, southeast and the central area. It stretches from Donamead in the northwest over to Ballymun, and then south to Ballyfermot and Cherry Orchard, and all the way southeast to Sandy. So your question, Dublin City Council, it's divided into 5 administrative areas, and stretching from the northwest area, it's got the north central, southeast and central area. So in terms of neighbourhoods, it's from Donamead in the northwest, west to Ballymun, south to Ballyfermot and Cherry Orchard, and then southeast to Sandymount. So most areas have at least what they call local electoral areas, LEAs. For example, the south central area has 2 LEAs, Ballyfermot Drimnagh, which is where I'm based, and Southwest Inner City. So as far as I know, there are 11 area offices then across the city. And so, as I say, I'm based in the Ballyfermot Drimnagh one, which is in the Civic Centre smack in the middle of Ballyfermot.
Brilliant. And I think that's really important to establish, because I think when people hear Dublin City, I think that Dublin City Centre is often the kind of most immediate thing that comes to people's minds. But actually, Dublin City, it is quite an expansive area.
Absolutely. I mean, there are 63 elected councillors across Dublin City Council, and there are 10 that represent the South Central area. And, the census data from 2022, Dublin has had a population back then of 600,000, and each LEA would have a population of around 75, which is the north inner city, and there's 44,000 down the southeast inner city. And when you think about the population of the areas, and you compare it to other counties, like there's quite a similarity. For example, County Carlow has a population of 62,000. So when you compare that to Ballyfermot Drimnagh of almost 50, you get an idea of the size of the city and what each area office is dealing with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And can you talk to me, Aoife, a little bit about why there are area offices? Because I would assume kind of maybe primarily it's to do with like actual management, because Dublin City, as we said, it's so like kind of vast and everything. But were there other kind of motivations to kind of structuring it that way?
I would say, Deirdre, that it is to do with dealing with the local issues at a local level. Mm-hmm. The area offices look after housing queries at a local level. They have local customer care and queries that they would deal with. There's the public domain department, and then ourselves, community and social development. So as queries come in, if we can answer them at a local level, we do, or else we would go centrally with whatever query that would come in. So the area offices are there to deal, really to be the face of the council at a local level, so people can come in with their queries. Certain area offices, it varies across the city, but in Ballyfermot Drimnagh, those are the 4 departments that we would have at a local level.
Brilliant. And we'll be talking a bit about Ballyfermot and Drimnagh more specifically later. But I was wondering if, firstly, Aoife, you can tell me a bit about what your role entails as area community and social development manager.
Yeah, absolutely. One department that I just forgot there, so I don't know whether would be parks. Mm-hmm. And parks is definitely an absolutely integral part of each area. So that would be another department that we would link in very closely with. So you're asking me, what is it that my role as area community and social development officer is? Well, the role of our team as a community and social development team is set out in our team charter, mm-hmm. Which each team would have within Dublin City Council. And what we aim to do is really build a viable, inclusive and sustainable community throughout the 8 neighbourhoods that exist in Ballyfermot Drimnagh area. So how we do that is we would work closely in partnership with community volunteers, most importantly, residents, businesses, statutory and non-statutory agencies and our elected reps and other city council staff. So we aim to work proactively and in dealing with opportunities and challenges that face our neighbourhoods. So what we would do is support and promote the development of social cohesion, where everyone has an opportunity to participate in the life of the city and have their voice heard. In addition, what we really try and do is build capacity of the community themselves to participate, and the team would assist communities and residents groups or associations identify their needs and develop appropriate plans for their area. A culture of volunteering is really strong within the city, and we would encourage that, and we would lean into it to help local communities, as I say, build their own capacity to determine what it is they'd like to do. All of this is based in the policies that Dublin City Council itself has laid down. So what we are doing is implementing, in particular, the local economic and community plan, but other policies such as the Dublin City Development Plan, the corporate plan and the annual service delivery plan would be as such, where we would get the goals, actions and KPIs that we would seek to implement in our neighbourhood. Another part of my role, Deirdre, is as age-friendly programme manager for the South Central area. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Dublin City Council looks for the voice of those over 55 to be represented. And one of the things that ways to do that is by setting up older persons councils. So we in the South Central area are in the process of doing that. So we have a call out and a campaign to encourage either local residents, an individual or groups who are representing over 55s to come together to join our Older Persons Council with the aim of representing the views of the older people and to influence and inform policy and planning, as well as influencing what the local initiatives are. So ultimately, the aim of that is to improve the lives of older people, to influence decision makers and service providers, and that it allows this council to be the voice of the older people and what matters and what is of concern to them. Another project that we are lucky and fortunate to be working with, and this was through the help and support of our colleagues in the DCC European Programme Support Office, is an URBACT, a European project. So what is URBACT? URBACT is a European initiative and it promotes sustainable urban development in cities. And since 2002, there's been over 1,000 European cities involved. So what this particular URBACT project is called an URBACT transfer network. And this is where a particular city, in this case Alias in Lithuania, has developed a good practice, and now it's at a stage where it's happy and able to share the good practice across a network of cities. So we in the area office put Bluebell forward as this, and we're fortunate enough that it has been chosen and will now be in a 30-month journey with Lithuania, and 5 other European cities. So the city in Lithuania is Altius. And what we will be doing is sharing and adapting the successful good practice that city has done.
Wow, it sounds like there's so much to it. So I am curious, Aoife, about, the career path that led you to this role, because it sounds like it's very kind of wide spanning in terms of like your duties and everything that fall under it.
For the last 11 years, I've been working on projects for Dublin City Council in various roles associated with community development. I'm just 6 months now in my current role out in Ballyfermot and Drimnagh. Prior to that, I was in the southwest inner city area. What led me to that? Well, before that, I was a researcher, an economist. I also spent a good 10 years being self-employed, both as a potter and a furniture restorer. So I think the years being self-employed gives you a very good idea about how business works, especially small businesses. And I feel it gives you a good understanding of the struggles, the financial struggles, and the breadth of work that a small business has to carry out. And in particular in the arts, I would say that I have an understanding of that, and I believe supporting the arts as a part of the city is a really important role that Dublin City Council takes very seriously, which is great.
There are many elements to your job, but what do you love the most about it on a day-to-day basis?
The variety of the work, I would say, Deirdre. Yeah. It's so varied. There are amazing, passionate volunteers within the community who are striving to do their best. And I see our role as helping them, in letting them know about opportunities, whether they be financial or, funding opportunities, or linking them in, facilitating them work with other groups. So the variety absolutely is what I love about the job. We work in partnership. So at the moment we're building partnerships with both service providers, groups and statutory agencies such as educational institutions. The ETB would be one that would come to mind. And ultimately, what is great about the job is seeing how communities thrive and get their voice heard and become the determinants of what it is that goes on in their community. So that's very satisfying. Another thing that I find really interesting about the job is the internal departments in Dublin City Council that we link in with. One in particular, I would say the Historian in Residence programme has been really helpful to draw people in and hear about their areas and build a pride of place. So Cathy Scuffle is the Historian in Residence in our area and does amazing work all the time. I mean, climate action is another feature that goes trickles throughout all of our work. So we would link in on any initiatives that are there and help local community groups or encourage funding and awareness around that, and link in again with parks on any of that. Yeah, parks, I would say, is it's fantastic to work with parks and to see how our parks are valued as a resource within the community. So those aspects of the job I love.
And it's interesting that your role is based in Ballyfermot and Drimnagh, and even from, working there so far, Aoife, what characteristics do you think make those areas unique and kind of set them apart in Dublin City? Because I noticed earlier you were kind of talking about, locally addressing local issues. So I was curious if you could speak a bit more to that.
The Ballyfermot Drimnagh area is made up of 8 neighbourhoods from Walkinstown down to Chapel Izzard. Looking at those neighbourhoods, I would say they're mainly suburban neighbourhoods. They are public housing working class estates that were built between the 1930s and the 1950s. In some ways, the markers are the Liffey, which runs on the boundary, but then through Chapel Izzard, and we've got the park, the Phoenix Park on one side, and another amazing biodiversity corridor is, of course, the Grand Canal that runs through many of the neighbourhoods that we have. There is strong community spirit within these communities. Intergenerational families having lived there since their houses were built as council houses. Many have been bought over, and it is those housing estates where you can see the development even within the parks of the trees and the stories that the families have there, how that is. And I suppose it's the welcoming nature of new people coming into the area, new types of developments such as apartments. And I would see that our role within those, the original characteristics of the 3-bed, 2-bed house now with apartments. So it is our job, I think, as a council to marry those two together such that new communities, are welcomed into the area.
What are some of the big challenges that you face as part of your work?
We are implementing new ways of building capacity within the community. Our approach is taking an evidence-based approach and looking at the statistics that are within the CSO census data, which allows us understand a bit more about the lives of people who are there. Early school leavers, comparing neighbourhoods to what it is at a national level, and then seeing, okay, this neighbourhood, 20% of the population left with only a national school education. The number of lone parents, unemployed people, or the deprivation index. So we're using that approach to community and social development and seeing what neighbourhoods are most vulnerable, giving them a voice in order for them to engage in their life and have a say. So is it a challenge? It is a change management approach that we are implementing. And so we are moving away from putting on events to building capacity such that the community themselves can determine what events they would like and supporting them in putting those events on. So that is the approach that we are taking. We're aware of the amazing work that is carried out, and we are continuing to support groups and individuals who want to get involved, in particular all of the volunteers. But our main aim is to reach those people whose voice we haven't heard and to help them engage in a process of their own community development.
Yeah, and that actually feeds nicely into the next thing I was going to ask you about, Aoife, which is what are the services that your department provides? And maybe services isn't even the right word, but kind of those means of support that you were kind of touching on in terms of like supporting community and social development.
Within the area offices, there would be the housing support from the housing team, customer service. So as an individual, if you come in and you have a query, there is a customer service charter there and an ability to talk to someone and for them to take your query and make sure that it is answered by the appropriate department. We have public domain and the community and social development. Within our own community and social development, we would be helped at a central level through the central community and social development about community grants would be something that we would inform the public about ability to avail of these grants. Social Inclusion Week is another funding stream that the council directly engage with the community on. Mm-hmm. There are other initiatives such as the Climate Fund or other funds. So in streams of funding, we would see it as our job to inform the public about these opportunities that are there. And then other services like, for example, the historian in residence, as I spoke about before, or biodiversity officer, heritage officers. If there are particular projects that we feel, parks, as another example, that may help communities in whatever it is that they are hoping to achieve, or also building awareness for the communities that there are these services here within the council. That is where we would see ourselves as a facilitator within that. Also, of course, there are many other service providers within our area and educational opportunities. So again, it is not about duplication, but it is about facilitation and making the community aware in order to build participation across our community within services and opportunities that are there.
Brilliant. That's a beautiful way to put it. And I know you mentioned that you're maybe kind of moving slightly away from events, but would there still be some kind of touch points or stalwart ones that you guys would include kind of in your annual calendar?
Absolutely, there are. And while we are moving away from organising them, we are absolutely supporting groups. Mm-hmm. So we hope that the number of events continue to rise and that the community groups have the ability, that is what we see as our role, to build their ability to apply for funding, to have the necessary policies and procedures in place, etc. But Dublin City Council itself has a role within Halloween and Christmas, will be the two main festivals. With Halloween in Ballyfermot, Drimnagh, we would chair and facilitate the different services and community groups, volunteer groups, put on their own events as an umbrella group. That's how we would work supporting them. At Christmas time, Christmas tree lighting events happen all over the city, and we have a good few down in Ballyfermot as well. And then if there are other events that, for example, there are Christmas dinners that volunteers host, in some cases for the elderly, and that's what's happening in Ballyfermot, so we would support them as well. So while we are moving away from organising them ourselves, we're there definitely to support and encourage people to put on their own events, and we're there to help them find out what it is, how it is that they can do that.
Brilliant. I think we're starting to come to the end here, Aoife, but I do have just a couple of more questions. Firstly, what are you hoping to accomplish in your capacity as Area Community and Social Development Manager? If you could wave a magic wand or look 5 years from now, what would be kind of the big long-term goals?
The role to me is a strategic role. Mm-hmm. So it is about looking to the future and seeing what opportunities are there and making sure that the local community have an opportunity to engage in that. So building awareness, I would say, having a more informed local community about that the local community have more of a say in what it is, and that their awareness is there of what is available for them to avail of. I think often I find that there is a frustration among the public with the length of time it takes to get anything done. And there is a reason why it takes time, because there either are policies and procedures or it has a process that it has to go through. So once the process is explained, and that this often, in fact, always, it is public money, and there is a code of conduct around us spending taxpayers' money, and that so we have policies and procedures that have to be followed. Back to your question about what is it that I would hope to achieve, I think helping the community and building their capacity. That is really, I think, the key to our role, that the community themselves have the capacity to determine what it is that they want for their community, that their voice is heard, and that they get to understand the decision-making process and get involved in how they can shape their own neighbourhoods.
Brilliant. And on that note, actually, my very last question, and, with the awareness that the word participation is one that's come up a few times today, how can listeners, people who are listening to this podcast right now, get involved in community and social development?
A bit like this podcast, so people will be listening to it online, I imagine. There are platforms, Dublin City Council social media, and we would share any information about events or about opportunities to avail of funding or to apply for funding. So social media platforms, I would say, are one way that absolutely people can hear about what is going on. everyone is more than welcome to call in to the Civic Centre down in Ballyfermot or any of the area offices, and there would be information shared about what is going on at a local level, either in the centre itself or within the community, or if you have an interest, for example, in environmental groups, all of that information would be at your local area office. So we would absolutely encourage people to come in. Volunteers are always welcome, and it's great to hear from people who want to get involved and to get an understanding about how their community works. We would all the time link in with local groups and figure out what they're doing and make sure that whatever it is that they want to promote what they're doing, that we get an opportunity to do that and build awareness about what it is available. So information about what's going on would be a key part of our role to ensure that it is. We are lucky to have Together FM, our local community radio station there, and we would use Together FM as a platform, an excellent platform to share information about what's going on. So I would encourage anyone to go call into your local area office, and there you'll definitely find a friendly face to tell you what's going on in your area and how you can get involved.
Brilliant. I think that is the perfect note to leave it on. Thank you so much, Aoife, for joining us today on What's the Story Dublin. We so appreciate you taking the time.
Gurv Míle Maith, Deirdre. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
And thanks again to today's guest, Aoife Hannan. I'd also like to extend my thanks to our audio engineer and editor, Robert Fay. This podcast was produced by myself, Deirdre Malumbi, and Michael Ryan, and recorded in the Central Library Studio. Be sure to spread the word if you're enjoying What's the Story Dublin, and to like and subscribe for future episodes. Slán go fóill.